be some of us today, some among us, maybe even all of us, who do not have a very high regard for the tax collector, especially this week. But neither did the Pharisee in today's story. Picture the scene that Jesus sets for us today. Two men went to the temple to pray. One a Pharisee, one a tax collector. This sets both men together and apart. They are both Jews. They go to the temple. They are both very pious or faithful or religious. They go to pray. One, however, is a Pharisee, someone who is noted for his extraordinary piety or religiosity. This Pharisee sees his status before God as a result of his own actions. He's very arrogant and proud because he attempts to exalt himself above all others. He gives thanks to God that he is not like other people. He is better than the thief and the tax collector. He's very proud of his religious acts of fasting and giving and tries to justify himself before God by exalting himself. Look at me. I'm religious. You know, I think he could be the author of a bestseller that might be entitled My Humility and How I Achieve It. He prayed about who he was, what he had done, what he had not done to put himself in good standing with God. He trusted in himself for his own righteousness. Now, although the Pharisee does thank God for his righteousness rather than claiming credit himself, he nevertheless points to so many of his own noble behaviors and so contradicts what humility might be all about that his prayer does not demonstrate what he's really saying. Oh, but he doesn't stop there. He goes on then to remind God how fortunate God is to have such a wonderful worshiper. This man obeys the commandments. He does not steal or covet. He is not greedy or unjust. What he is not is what the tax collector is. So who is this other one who's praying, this tax collector? He cannot be a Pharisee, since the Pharisees are particularly contemptuous of tax collectors. You see, they work for the Romans, and they side with the Romans, and they handle their money, and they steal from people. These tax collectors, after all, were part of a pretty corrupt system. They actually took money from the poor and enriched the wealthy. The tax collector in Jesus' day, by definition, was a wealthy person. You see, that person could pay the empire a set amount for the privilege of gathering whatever he can squeeze out from his neighbors. And he's free to collect the money any way he wants to. And everything he collects beyond what is owed is his own profit. Tax collectors were frequently foreign people, and they often farmed out their responsibilities to others. So it created kind of one of those little pyramid effects. It's no wonder that the tax collector was, in general, pretty despised. And here he comes. Here comes the tax collector to pray. He comes in a humble spirit. He has recognized his misdeeds, his brokenness. He genuinely acknowledges how he has become so separated from God and from all the other people, and how much he really needs God's mercy. He trusted in God for his righteousness. And he, believe me, didn't do anything to earn or deserve God's mercy. God's mercy was freely given to him. So, where do you see yourself in the story? Who are you? A Pharisee or a tax collector? It's really hard to hear this parable without placing ourselves in one role or the other, or hearing ourselves in each of the people. Which one of us at some time or another has not felt a bit self-satisfied? Oh Lord, I thank you that I am not like fill in the blank. I am glad I am in this faith and not that one. Fill in the blank. I'm here every Sunday morning and every Wednesday evening. I pledge faithfully to serve on 3 important committees, and on and on and on. Or sometimes we're in the shoes of the tax collector, when we recognize that there are those times when we mess up and we gain a sense of humility. Or those times when we even hit rock bottom. Or we make a mistake and we see our need for God's forgiveness. Or we judge others for their beliefs and disregard their faith. In those times, we may pray like the tax collector. Oh God, be merciful to me. I think this parable talks to us about who we are as followers of Christ. Now, if it makes us twinge a little bit with the thought of acting like the self-righteous Pharisee, or if it inspires us with the humility of the tax collector, the bottom line of this story is about our relationship with God and with others. The parable reminds us about the God of mercy and grace and acceptance. God's grace is not achieved by us, but rather given to us by the God who reaches out to us. Luke says that Jesus tells this parable to confront arrogance and religious pride. It is addressed to those, as it says in the beginning of the story, who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and regarded others with contempt. How easy it is. How easy it is for us to trust in ourselves and our own efforts that we are righteous, and to regard others with some kind of judgment or even contempt. We do our good duty and worship every Sunday. We put our envelope in the offering plate or make our automatic payment withdrawal. We serve the church and the world in so many ways. And that is good. It is very good. Until we take it to the level of the Pharisees. When we then add, and hooray for me, and hooray for us, and boo on everyone else who doesn't do it like we do. Who doesn't follow our rules, or live the way we do. Or only come to church on Christmas or Easter or funerals. You know, even if we do not take our judgment to this extreme, and this is extreme, it can be difficult to avoid looking on others with some sort of judging feeling when they do not conform to our expected standards or behavior, especially in regard to our religious practice. That's the problem with religious people. When we let our religion get in the way of our relationship. Last weekend, when Rick and I were enjoying a little time off, thank you, Stephanie, very much for leading worship, we were walking down a busy street in Kansas City, and we came upon a street preacher. You know what a street preacher is? They got a bullhorn in one hand and the Bible in the other. And they are speaking at the top of their voice. And this street preacher was and a microphone too, so everyone can hear. Was promptly telling people that they were going to hell because of their dirty sin, unless they accepted Jesus. And Rick and I thought for a moment, and we sort of said to ourselves, well, here we go again. Another misrepresentation of the gospel that reaffirms why many people will never set foot inside a church worship service. And as we walked by him a little closer, we heard him say, the undeserved grace of Jesus. And Rick said to me in a loud voice, he doesn't understand grace. And that's all it took. Suddenly one of his helpers descended upon us and wanted to give us a tract and set us straight. And we simply said, no thanks. We are Christian, and we believe God's and Christ's grace is for all. And he took a couple of steps backwards and looked very confused. And as I think back on all that experience, I realized there was a bit of a Pharisee in me at that moment. A wild Pharisee. Of course, I don't agree with the theology that he was preaching. However, he did. And for him, he was expressing his faith. Jesus' challenge is for all of us as religious people. And Jesus challenges us to remember that it's all about relationship. Our relationship with God, who loves us and reaches out to us. God values each and every one of us and gives us the grace and the love and the ability to live as faithful disciples. The liberation of knowing that God is gracious and loving means that we can leave behind our reliance on our own achievements. And we can leave behind our judgments and all those thoughts, spoken or not, about other people. And what we can do is recommit ourselves to our own individual personal relationship with God and how God empowers us to live our faith in the world. So whether we feel like a Pharisee or a tax collector or however we feel, all are welcome with God. What good news! Let's go live it. Amen.